The graduation address gives us the opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of our alumni community. And we're indeed fortunate today that the address will be given by Mr. Dominic Hofstede. Mr. Hofstede had an extensive and varied career in graphic design and is currently Executive Creative Director of Lord Melbourne, leading a multidisciplinary team on visual identity projects. After graduating from Monash University, he worked with leading multidisciplinary studio Nexus Designs before establishing his own practice in the mid-1990s. Hofstede Design was renowned for its commitment to typographic craft, and the studio garnered numerous awards both within Australia and internationally. Under his leadership, Hofstede Design worked with a diverse range of clients, including the Australian Ballet, the Australian Youth Orchestra and the National Gallery of Victoria. Mr. Hofstede also established an online archive of Australian graphic design which generated various research outcomes and publications. Mr. Hofstede is an active member of the design community and is also passionate about mentoring young designers at different educational institutions. I have much pleasure in inviting Mr. Dominic Hofstede to deliver the graduation address.
Deputy Chancellor Mr. Yehudi Blecher, Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Vice-President Education Professor Susan Elliott, Associate Dean Research of the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture Professor Melissa Miles, Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics Professor Richard Hall, members of the faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and especially the new graduates. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Kulin Nation communities, and pay my respects to elders past and present. This most significant day is about celebration, recognition, and reflection. I'm humbled I've been asked to share it with you alongside your friends, families, and colleagues. A university degree or postgraduate qualification from Monash is an achievement that will continue to echo for the rest of your lives. Joining this exclusive cohort has, no doubt, required sacrifice and struggle through long nights of coffee and Deliveroo. Congratulations. Now the real work begins. Hearing the word distinguished next to my name is a reminder that I am perhaps closer to the end of my career than the beginning. If I could be in your shoes today, armed with the knowledge of the past 3 decades, life would be perfect. These are the kinds of cliched musings that people of my age make, and a warning that there's going to be many more in the next 8 minutes. Here's another. We live now in a time of self, where the focus seems inexorably on the individual and not necessarily the other, where success is judged by likes or followers and careers last days and months, not years and decades. Though the spotlight today is quite rightly on you, my address will highlight the important role that others will play in the chapters to come. My others are 3 individuals who, coincidentally or perhaps not, are all connected to Monash in a myriad of ways. I'm going to use the very contemporary term influencer as a descriptor for these people. The dictionary offers 2 definitions for influencer. 1, a person or thing that influences another. 2, a person with the ability to influence potential buyers of a product or service by promoting or recommending the items on social media. These individuals fit the first definition and not the second. When I graduated, the 1980s were coming to an end. After a decade of unbridled excess and success, Australia was about to slide into recession. In 1990, Collingwood won an AFL premiership for the first time in 32 years. It was truly the worst of times. My first year at Monash had included learning practical skills, drawing in its many forms, photography, calligraphy, and even being trained to type on a typewriter. By the 4th and final year of study, the first generation of Macintosh computers had arrived. We were all acutely aware that a seismic shift in our profession and our lives was about to happen. I was blessed, in retrospect, to have been amongst the last of the analogue generation that also straddled the beginnings of the digital age. Appreciating the value of the brain and the pencil over the hard drive and the mouse is a legacy of my time at Monash. I was also amongst the last to experience free tertiary education, with HECS introduced the year after graduating. I left university broke, but not in debt, unlike yourselves. I'm very thankful for this fortuitous timing. Amongst the sessional teaching staff at Monash was a man called Guy Mirabella. Unlike many other teachers, Guy was a practicing designer, and he spoke of the profession with a relevance and an honesty that resonated profoundly. His passionate and forthright commitment extended beyond design to all aspects of music, art, film, books, and life. We remained in touch as I made my first awkward steps after uni. I worked for 3 years with another of my lecturers before travelling abroad, and upon my return, Guy reached out. We began again not as teacher and student, but director and designer, or perhaps master and apprentice. Under his tutelage, I further developed the foundation skills of my profession, trade knowledge that remains with me today. A polymath, Guy has conceived, designed, illustrated and written numerous cookbooks, and our friendship was solidified by working together on some of those projects. I often have reflected on the important role that mentoring has played throughout my life. I regularly advise graduates that when considering their first job offer, they should explore opportunities for mentorship within the organisation. Is there someone you can look up to, someone to provide counsel and critique, a person you can approach when uncertainty or indecision envelops you? Guy was that person for me. After 7 years of employment, I weighed up setting out on my own. Guy provided advice and encouragement, and in 1996, I both married my wonderful wife, Em, and also undertook a commitment to my practice. For nearly 10 years, I worked solo, doing every task a small business requires. Beyond the designing, there is the promoting, the invoicing, the negotiating, and the worrying. This isolation developed into an unhealthy creative process, one based on insularity and inflexibility. Even when I eventually began employing staff, I still insulated myself from them creatively. It's a cowardly and unhealthy way to work, I realised later. In 2007, I received an application from a young woman named Wendy Ellerton. Following her graduation from Monash, Wendy was the first Australian to undertake the internationally renowned type design course at the Royal Academy of Art in Den Haag, the Netherlands. Wendy's training in type design added a technical rigour to the folio, and she played a major role in the evolution of the studio. For perhaps the first time in my career, I learned the liberating value of collaboration, an openness to the sharing of ideas, knowledge, and responsibilities. Wendy taught me to loosen my grip on the work, and that inviting constructive and informed feedback can open up new creative possibilities. Though not obvious to me then, her empathy, patience, and candour are excellent prerequisites for teaching, and indeed, Wendy has subsequently pursued a career in education at Monash, moulding young designers with her innovative teaching methods. Her influence has expanded overseas with workshops in Italy, China, and the Gulf states. In 2008, we attended the Australian Graphic Design Awards in Adelaide, and I experienced an epiphany of sorts. I recall watching slides of work by that year's Hall of Fame inductees, and it suddenly struck me. These people who had just been given the ultimate accolade by our profession were unknown to me. Upon my return, I began searching for information about them, and I was astounded at the dearth of records. The timing was right. Exhausted by the daily cut and thrust of commercial practice, I'd resolved to pursue a personal project, one for the soul and not the bank balance, and the result was Recollection, an online archive of Australian graphic design from the 1960s to the 1980s. This introduced me to my third and final influencer, Warren Taylor. At that time, alongside teaching at Monash, Warren operated the seminal exhibition space, The Narrows. This tiny gallery had become renowned locally and internationally for its innovative program of graphic design and traditional art practice. As Recollection gained momentum, I approached him about producing an exhibition of one of Australian graphic design's most significant individuals, Les Mason. Together we assembled what would prove to be the last exhibition at The Narrows, centred around Les Mason's work for the iconic food and wine magazine Epicurean. The success of that project provided the impetus for a series of collaborations including books, writing, and another exhibition at Monash in 2015. In 2016, we undertook a fellowship together at the State Library of Victoria, the outcome of which was a book concerning the important 1960s paperback publisher, Sun Books. Warren is a doer. Undaunted by seemingly insurmountable odds, he will embrace any challenge which confronts him, from absurdly ambitious student projects to curating exhibitions. He possesses a spirit of practical optimism which is infectious. In my own career, I wasted many years waiting for the perfect moment or opportunity to arise. Warren taught me that if we have the nerve and the commitment, those opportunities are ours to create. Like Guy and Wendy, Warren's legacy includes countless Monash graduates who have passed under their tutelage. Over half of my current team at Maud are Mater alumni, and I'm privileged to benefit from their expertise. It's a truism that if you surround yourself with others more infinitely talented than yourself, you can't go too far wrong. And sign off with a very simple thought, a takeaway that's hopefully relevant to budding designers, architects, artists and economists. Be courageous. Have the courage to seek opportunities for mentorship, the courage to open yourself up to collaboration, and the courage to be the initiator and not the procrastinator. Thank you so much.